Things are gonna get crazy!
Most everyone's mad here.
Hello everyone, to another exciting episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. How are you all doing, everyone? I hope you all had a nice week since the last episode, and I hope you're all prepped up considering that coming soon we are going to have Halloween, so the spooky season will really be unleashed very soon. But there is one reason that I will say now that I am very excited, and it's not just because of what we have today on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. No, it is actually because of what I am preparing for the near future. And that's why before we actually do get into this episode, I have two major announcements that I like to go and reveal to you all. One that will be an appetizer and one that will definitely get you all hyped up. Now, first, I would like to go and reveal that later this week, I will be doing another live stream on my Twitch channel, AniMat Live, but this won't be any other stream. This is actually going to be a charity stream. Once again, I am going to be teaming up with Gamers Outreach in order to go and play some games as well as to raise funds for the Gamers Outreach Foundation. And for those of you who don't know, Gamers Outreach is the organization meant to gain some funds so that they can go and place it onto special machines that are meant for children in hospitals, for them to have fun and play video games and just, enjoy a little bit of life as they're on their road to recovery in those hospitals. And the game that I shall be playing for that live stream is going to be Cuphead, the Delicious Last Course. Now, I will say right now, ever since I first played it, I've gotten a whole lot better at Cuphead. So we'll see how things are going to go with the Delicious Last Course. And I'm just going to go and say now, no, I have yet to play the DLC of the game. So it's going to be very interesting to see how I'm going to do with my first shot at fighting many of these bosses. Now, I cannot promise you that I will go and fully complete the game, but still though, it will just be a lot of fun just watching me go through the trials and errors and maybe rage a little bit, get that classic, gamer rage out as we go through these bosses and the levels of Cuphead. So, once again, if you want to go and join me on this charity stream and you want to go and donate to Gamers Outreach, then keep in mind that I'll be starting it on Thursday, October 30th, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern. So mark your calendars for that. Now, that's the first announcement that I want to go and make. And the second one, well, I'm not going to go into too much details. I'm just going to go with one or two sentences with what I'm about to say on this. And this is in regards to the future of one of the series that I have on my main channel, Electro Dragon 505. So, the production of Animation Look Back Blue Sky Studios has officially begun. As of today, or as I am recording this, I have started to write the script, and more details shall be revealed in the near future. So now with all that out of the way, let's actually get into this episode. And may I say, my God, it was a shocker of a week. Now, I know there have been plenty of announcements or plenty of news that have been extremely shocking, especially with the messed up things that has happened in America, especially with that politician that's trying to run for the Democratic Senate race in Maine. And he has all those illegal tattoos on him, in which the fact that nobody is really punishing him or deporting him or throwing him in jail for that is rather shocking and very problematic. And also you got Donald Trump pretty much destroying a significant part of the White House just so he could go and turn it into his personal elitist palace, which that is also extremely messed up. And, you know, people are not reacting as concerned as they should be. The fact that no action is being taken really shows how messed up and ruined America has truly become since Donald Trump and Republicans took over the whole thing. But what we are going to be looking into, actually, will be a whole bunch of animation news that has shocked us either out of being scared or shocked us out of being very excited. So either way, it's going to be a hell of a time on this episode. And with that said, now I would like to pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, actually, not what do you think, are you ready for today's episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast? Let me hear it, folks. Are you ready? All right, let's see if people are ready. So yes, okay, people are ready. I see people are prepared. That's beautiful to see. And, oh, did we get a new fish here? Thank you so much. All right, so, oh, no, it's actually a surprise gifted sub. All right, okay, so I see everyone is prepared. I see now that people are ready. And with that said, it is now time that we shall go and get things started. And with our first story that I have for you today, well, this is going to be interesting because in a way, it's a trailer, but at the same time, it's not really. Because what this is it refers to itself as a first look. And even though it's not necessarily a traditional trailer that we all know and recognize with how trailers nowadays are, this is still our first major look at how this movie is going to be. And may I say, considering that there's already been a lot of anticipation on this, even though we've barely seen anything from it, the fact that now we actually did get some form of a clip and new information about this, already, that has built up even more hype than now. So, with that said, let us now begin by checking out the, not the trailer, but the first look at the upcoming Laika animated feature, Wildwood.
With over 20 years of handcrafted storytelling,
and that is Wildwood, or at least our first look into the picture, to which the movie is stated to go and come out in 2026. Now, when specifically is it going to be coming out, or where specifically is it going to be coming out, rather it be either in theaters or maybe on streaming, that we still don't know. All we know so far is just the promise that somewhere next year, we are going to get Wildwood. And I've already stated before, in fact, it was not that long ago that I actually talked about Laika and some of the future projects that they want to do beyond Wildwood, including considering to do some live action features and look more beyond just producing movies in general. So when it comes to Wildwood, I will state right now that as a fan of Laika and who have really enjoyed a lot of their movies, including Coraline and especially Kubo and the Two Strings, honestly, I was very much excited to go and check out Wildwood, always anticipating to see when this movie is going to be coming out or when are we going to be getting some new information, because slowly but surely we've only been getting like small bits and pieces, just little tastes over like the past 4 years, because I think the first time that they truly made an announcement about this project was like back in 2021? So yeah, it's been like a long time coming, and it's like a slow burn in terms of the buildup that we have been getting. In fact, as I've stated before, what we just saw here is our first true look at how the movie is going to be. The first time that we've actually seen any forms of clips that came from this picture. Like, at the most beyond that was just that one title reveal that we've had, and some marketing material in which they featured the main character. I think they said her name was Prue, alongside the other main characters of Laika, like Susan or Coraline or Kubo and Norman and all those others. And from there, personally, well, as I stated, I am very much excited for this. But then after watching that, oh my God, my hype just significantly grew. And I think a big part of it is how this video was crafted. And I know that this is something that many people have pointed this out, but in a way, there is a part of it where you can look at this as a trailer, but not just any trailer. This is more like a throwback to those older VHS trailers, because this used to be a thing that some of these movies used to do, especially like back in the 1990s. Whether it be for some of the early DreamWorks movies or especially like the Disney Renaissance films, some of the trailers that they would go and present, it wouldn't be just to do the traditional trailer of just showing bits and pieces of how the movie is going to be while providing a quick little summary of how the story will be. But also, they would go and highlight a lot of the behind the scenes, like really emphasizing the craftsmanship of how these movies were made and showing all the hard work that the artists and animators would really go and put into. Like, I remember even as a kid, when there would be a bunch of trailers that would go and highlight that, especially for stuff like The Lion King or The Hunchback of Notre Dame or Tarzan, or even like for some of the other movies, like either for The Prince of Egypt or whatever. But this used to be a thing. That used to be a marketing tactic where they used to highlight the studio behind it, like very prominently, and showing the hard work that was put into it in order to go and really hype up this movie and try to pass that off as a legitimate trailer. And that's kind of how this feels like it is framed, like especially to go and highlight the animators who worked on it behind the scenes. And in this case here, really talking about one new character that we have been introduced to, which is the General. And in this case here, when discussing about the General, who is going to be voiced by Angela Bassett, not only discussing about who the character is and what is her role in Wildwood, but also highlighting what the animators have to do in order to go and animate this giant bird. And even when it comes to the puppet itself, yeah, maybe it's not as gigantic as the big red skeleton in Koopa and the Two Strings, but still, as a stop motion puppet, that thing is still significantly large for them to go and work with, even highlighting how they would go and use two main puppets for the General, like one for the flights and one to go up close in order to go and animate more of the personality more so than the animal aspect. But even at that, like just seeing how they would go and study and how to really get the anatomy and getting the flight correct, like getting all the movements right. Like so far, it is very impressive with what they've highlighted. Like so far, I will say that outside of having a voice and being played by Angela Bassett, the General really reminds me a lot of Marahute from The Rescuers Down Under, and the craftsmanship that Glenn Keane and the animators at Disney had to do on that character in order to bring that giant eagle to life. So there's already that similarity, but especially in terms of the craftsmanship of how they would go and create that character. And I mean, as you guys probably know, I love The Rescuers Down Under. I think it's one of Disney's most underrated movies, and I just find the animation there to be absolutely stunning, especially with Marahute. And if you can make something that is on par with Marahute, then honestly, major props to you guys. It's already fascinating. And I mean, what's great about this first look that we did have It's just the fact that it only highlights this one character in particular, and yet we know that in the back of our minds, that's only a fraction of what's going to be in store. Yes, the general will be a prominent character in Wildwood, but there's still so much more that we don't know about. There's still plenty of surprises that are going to be inside. But what we do know is that so far, the team at Laika are hard at work to go and craft these characters. And already we could tell just from the little bits and pieces that we see with the way that they animated the general is already phenomenal. It already looks beautiful, and it's already on its way to possibly become one of the most hyped animated films of next year. But with that said, though, there is also one thing that I want to go and address, because I remember I put this on social media and this got me excited. Like, I was there to go and say, like, oh my God, you got to check this out. This is amazing. But then it came to my attention when one person did bring up about the controversial working conditions that has happened at Laika, about the fact that, unfortunately, yes, behind the scenes, the working conditions have been noted to be quite bad. And I mean, it shouldn't even be a surprise of the fact that, considering that the studio is run by Travis Knight, who is the son of a billionaire, of course, they would be extremely anti-union. And there are some evidence that does prove that. Now, the sources that I have here, they are noted to be a few years old, and they do highlight the troublesome production that happened on their last animated feature, Missing Link, but it is worth bringing up. Like, there's this one post on Twitter here in which it discusses about the anti-union practices that has happened on at Laika. This is like one part of several on this particular post, where it even says here, Laika aggressively squashed a unionization attempt during Missing Link, and there was virtually no coverage of it in the local newspaper or industry magazines. Travis Knight's billionaire status has a chilling effect on critical reporting. And there's also another one here, which is on the Laika Reddit on the Laika subreddit, in which it would go and describe about how Laika is actually a very problematic studio because of its anti-union status, and also how the heads at Laika, including the Knights, are pretty much taking advantage of it, even to the point of firing anybody who would dare criticize or bring up the poor working conditions that are in the studio. Now, again, I just want to go and emphasize that this is from a few years ago that this came out, and that a lot of it is discussing about the terrible working conditions that occurred during the production of Missing Link. Now, I cannot confirm or deny if this still remains true even nowadays with what's happening at Laika right now with the production of Wildwood and stuff like that, but it is something that just has to be brought up. It just has to be mentioned. So it's like, I guess the best way to put it is like, yes, there is definitely some hype for Wildwood, but there is a little bit of an asterisk to be a little bit mindful about maybe not everything that's happening behind the scenes. It's not as like grand and beautiful and honorable as they would go and present it here. It's very much like the way that Sony Pictures is running Sony Pictures ImageWorks, with how that particular studio is very anti-union. And even though they have recently made some of the biggest fan favorite films out there, including the Spider-Verse films and K-pop Demon Hunters, their productions on what has happened behind the scenes on those films are definitely not pretty, and there have been those, including Phil Lord, who have taken advantage of the anti-union status, in which the treatment that the animators have gotten, well, let's just say they are either a low priority or they have been sacrificed in order to try to make the production move forward. But anyways, with all that said, though, when it comes to the project itself, when it comes to Wildwood, I'm not trying to damper on any mood or anything like that. I just thought like it would be important to go and bring it up. I'm still very much excited. And I mean, it's stuff like this with what we have seen right here with the trailer. I think it is honestly, I think it is a great, well, technically, quote unquote, trailer. And it definitely did the job to go and really hype up to really hype myself up more for what's in store with Wildwood. Like, this is exactly why I consider Wildwood to be one of my most anticipated movies that's going to be coming out in 2026. And I'm so excited to see what more will come with Wildwood. All right, so with that said, now it is time that I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what did you think of the first look of Wildwood? Did it make you excited for what's to come? Are you interested in checking out Wildwood? Do you disagree with me, and maybe you aren't as impressed by what you just saw in the first look as I was? Let me know what you think. And you know what? Let's go and make things or, I don't think we actually have time for, we don't have time actually for a poll, so I'll save it for another time. But anyways, let's go and see what the chat has to go and say. All right, let's see here. I remember seeing this sneak peek at the re-release of Paranorman. I was the only one who stayed for it. I have no idea why. And let me tell you, just hook it to my veins. Not only is the story beautiful, but I like how the trailer doesn't give anything major, just bird. And yeah, the general looks great, and I'm excited to hear what Angela Bassett does with her. Nothing left to say, but I can't wait. I just pray the animators are treated well this time. Yeah, let's just hope so too. I mean, worst case, we'll probably have a whistleblower reveal some pretty nasty behind the scenes stories, but we will see. We'll just have to wait and see on that. Let's see. While I am impressed with the technical aspect of this trailer, I'm a bit nervous that they use those as the biggest selling point of the movie rather than the story itself. That's always a red flag for me. That said, the Laika artistry we've come to know and love has evolved to amazing degrees. I am amazed that they were able to do all of this in stop motion. I'm keeping my hype in check, but I am both impressed with and excited for this movie. I can't wait to see it in the theater. Yeah, and I mean, like I said before, I don't know if this is going to be coming out in theaters or just on streaming, especially right now when stop motion is having a very difficult time with gathering money at the box office. Usually it would just come out as like an automatic flop, unless it's like a re-release of a fan favorite movie like Coraline or just recently with Paranorman. But still, though, only time will tell, and hopefully in the near future, we will get more information. Let's see what else we got here. I am so excited to watch this movie. It's honestly been a long time since we got a trailer that shows a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff of how it'll turn out. It sucks that you don't see those these days, given it'll definitely amp up the hype further. But yeah, I'll be seated when Wildwood comes out. It better be having a big screen release. Well, let's just hope now. Let's see now. I will say, even though this wasn't really a full-on trailer, this definitely is very exciting, and this could be another solid movie from Laika. I definitely see how this could be another creative project from them. I will say, given the non-union tactics they did with Missing Link, which is unfortunate, it really is like the Inside Out 2 production all over again. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of disappointing when you learn, it's becoming more and more common in animation, especially those that are not part of the union. And then, again, I know I've stated a lot of times this before, but it really does suck. When there's a movie that you really love, or it came out feeling amazing, like Inside Out 2 or the Spider-Verse films or what have you, and then you learn how the production was pretty crappy, where the animators were really not treated well. And I even heard that there was I don't know if there is a true confirmation of this, but I even heard a little bit K-pop Demon Hunters had a bit of that as well, where the Sony executives were not treating the animators kindly during the production of that film. Let's see. I think I got time for one more comment here. So let's see. Okay, I'll go with this one. The hype is on. I love Laika's previous films, and even their weakest box trolls is still pretty good. Now, after 7 years, Laika finally seems like they're back, and just from this simple look, it still looks very intriguing, even if I know most people were already turned off, simply because Awkwafina is part of the cast. I did hear that apparently Awkwafina is in it, but I mean, like, that's not really gonna go and bother me. Like, sure, like, I know Awkwafina is one of those actors that animated films especially would keep on reusing again and again, and not to mention that her voice is very much consistently the same, like no matter which project it would be, whether it be on like The Bad Guys or Raya and the Last Dragon or the Little Mermaid remake or what have you. Like, yeah, we're gonna have Awkwafina again, but still though, you know, like, she's still a pretty good actress. You know, she could still put up a pretty solid performance when she could be at her best. Or, like, when given a great script, she could provide a very solid performance. So, like, I think we'll just have to wait and see before we could judge if the casting of Awkwafina is actually a cringy idea or if it's actually a good idea. But anyways, now with all that said, we're going to go on to our first break. And when we do return, well, let's just say that our next story is probably the most highly requested for me to go and talk about because, oh man, did I receive many messages of people telling me about this particular news. So when we return, we will be discussing about the possible deaths of two of what I consider to be the worst characters in animation. Welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, oh boy, did I receive plenty of messages about this particular news. Now, at first, I only saw messages of people telling me that this has allegedly happened, and that people were telling me like, oh, you're gonna be so happy when you hear about this. Oh, I wonder what AniMat's is going to think about it. Oh boy, what is his reaction going to be when he talks about this? You know, I've seen these messages and I've received these messages on social media throughout the past week. And you know what? If I am going to comment on this, then what better way to do so than to actually go and fully discuss about it here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. And I did manage to take the time to go and actually look into what this news is actually about. But I'm just going to go and say right now that for now, I'm going to be treating this as a rumor because technically this is not a full-on confirmation. Now, you will understand what I am talking about as we will get into the discussion about the possible death of Crash and Eddie from Ice Age. Yes, apparently this might be happening, but again, there's no 100% confirmation if that actually is the case. Now, the reason why this is brought up is actually because of this website right here called The Direct. And The Direct would go and actually have a chat with one of the actors who played Crash and Eddie, which is Seann William Scott. The other, of course, being Josh Peck. But in this case here, the reason why they specifically talked to Seann William Scott was because Sean was out there to go and promote his new movie that he was on, Bad Man. And considering that Ice Age is going to be getting another animated feature coming at the start of 2027 called Ice Age Boiling Point, The Direct figured, you know what, considering that Seann William Scott is also a prominent player in the Ice Age universe, playing as Crash specifically, they might as well go and ask him about his possible involvement in that film. To which I'll be reading from my source here on The Direct. They went and asked Seann William Scott, are we going to see more Crash in the 6th Ice Age movie? And his response is, I don't think so. This is the first I've heard of it. I'm feeling like if I haven't heard anything at this point, they're probably going to kill Crash off. Which, by the way, the movie doesn't need two little opossums, and they both don't need to pay us for it. Yeah, I haven't heard about Ice Age Boiling Point. So basically, from there, with this response, pretty much the whole article is pretty much saying that there is a possibility that in Ice Age Boiling Point, Crash and Eddie are going to be dead. And that's especially with the fact that there is a part of it that feels massively suspicious of the fact that, is Crash and Eddie going to be involved? Especially with the fact that Disney has already announced that there are some actors who will be returning to reprise their roles. And we're not just talking about those who are like sound-alike actors. No, we mean like legitimately the original actors from the Ice Age movies. Specifically that they're bringing back Ray Romano to play as Manny, John Leguizamo to play as Sid, Queen Latifah to play as Ellie, Dennis Leary playing as Diego, and Simon Pegg as Buck. And those are the 5 only actors that they have confirmed will be coming back for Ice Age Boiling Point. And yet, Seann William Scott and Josh Peck are not confirmed to be in there to play as Crash and Eddie. Now, to go and give you guys a little bit of context, and why is it that people really wanted me to go and talk about this, is mainly because I have made it known that I hate Crash and Eddie. Now, I know that hate is a very strong word, but to be very honest, after going through all the Ice Age movies and also going through the Disney Plus movie, I think I am justified to use that term. Mainly because I believe Crash and Eddie are not just the worst characters of the Ice Age franchise, but 2 of possibly the most annoying and the worst characters in animation. They are absolutely unbearable every time they're on screen because their only shtick, their only purpose is to be two dumbass comic reliefs. And that's it. Like, their contribution is nothing in terms of helping out with the plot, nothing in terms of helping out with the characters. Like, probably the most character development that they have ever gotten, or the most that they've ever had a purpose, was in the Meltdown when they were seen as the brothers of Ellie, and that's pretty much it, just to go and help out with the backstory of Ellie, where she was raised by opossums. And from there, other than that, it's just doing the same stupid kind of joke that the punchline always ends with, they're idiots. And that's it. And every single attempt they tried to do, it is frustrating by how unfunny they are. Like, they're a lot more annoying than they could actually be considered chuckle-worthy even. But the worst part about them is not just the fact that they are unfunny. It's the fact that they are unfunny and absolutely unnecessary. None of the sequels ever need to have Crash and Eddie in them because their purpose is to be the dumbass comic reliefs. But the thing is, Ice Age already has a dumbass comic relief. They already got Sid. And I mean, sure, yes, Sid from time to time, especially with the later sequels, Sid can also be annoying. Sid can also be so stupid that he's not funny. That can happen, in which Sid would probably have some flops. And depending on the movie, he could have more flops than he does hits with his comedy. But still, though, with Sid, at least there is the excuse that he has been there since the very beginning. Like, he's the main comic relief that is part of the trio of Ice Age. And at least with Sid, there are some moments that I could think of, rather it be in the original or even in the sequels, that he can actually be funny. That there are times when watching Sid can actually be amusing and fun. Never once do I ever have that with Crash and Eddie. It's nothing but just pure annoyance all throughout. And when I heard about the Adventures of Buck Wild movie on Disney Plus, where they decided that, oh, well, other than Buck Wild, we're also going to have Crash and Eddie as the stars, oh boy, did I lose it. And my God, did that movie turn out to be terrible. It still stands as a strong competitor alongside Hotel Transylvania Transformania as one of the worst animated movies of this decade so far. Like, maybe it won't reach at like immediate number one, but it's still prominently up there so far. So yeah, all this to go and pretty much say that I hate Crash and Eddie. So you can imagine that with that in mind, that I've already expressed this several times in my videos, many people were pretty much excited for me to go and hear that Crash and Eddie will not only not return in the sequel, but they could turn out to be possibly dead. And in that regards, I'm not going to go and put up the celebrations just yet. And I've already said this plenty of times before fully getting into this, but the thing is that you got to keep in mind that our source here is from the actor, and it's not from either the actual filmmakers, nor is it actually from either Disney or 20th Century. For now, it's only from one of the Crash and Eddie actors who said that he might be dead. And that's another thing why it's not a full-on confirmation. He didn't say that... Oh, excuse me. This news has already got me riled up and choked up already. But as I was saying, what Seann William Scott is saying, he didn't confirm that he is dead. He said that he might be dead. In fact, let's go back to the quote that he stated here, that they're probably going to kill Crash off. That doesn't necessarily mean that they will go and happen. Now, I will state right now that it already is a very positive sign that we do see the possibility that it might actually happen. Like already, the fact that we know that this has been well in production and that somehow Seann William Scott has not even heard about a 6th Ice Age movie or like any of the news that came out, like with Boiling Point, or like that the original actors are coming back. The fact that this right here is the first time that he heard about this project in general, that's already a pretty positive sign that maybe it's not gonna happen. Maybe there is a possibility that he is right and that we're not gonna see Crash and Eddie return. Or maybe like they might not be dead, but maybe they could do something that would go and make the Adventures of Buck Wild actually canon with the Ice Age lore, that they would go and highlight that Crash and Eddie are not going to be coming back in the surface, and they decide that they're going to go and stay in the prehistoric realm while Buck Wild just decides to go up and join Sid, Manny, and Diego. They would go and maybe they'll go and do that. So yes, I am open to the idea that maybe there is a likelihood that they're not going to return. And if that is the case, then great, awesome. Honestly, I'm not going to be immediately hyped up for Ice Age Boiling Point, but you've already gotten my interest, and it already sounds like you're going to be making significant improvements by getting rid of so many characters from the sequel. Because I'll just say right now, you don't need the grand majority of them. You don't need Diego's Jennifer Lopez girlfriend. I think she was voiced by Jennifer Lopez. But also, you don't need Sid's girlfriend. You don't need Sid's grandma. You don't need any of those, okay? Like, so far, with those 5, with Sid, Manny, Diego, Ellie, and Buck, that's already enough. You don't need to do any more. Like, sure, you can bring in new characters, but when it comes to recurring characters, those 5 are enough. And that's it. And if they're going to go in that direction, then already that has gotten my interest. And maybe this could probably end up becoming one of the better Ice Age movies. But with that said, though, you have to keep in mind that there is also the possibility that maybe this could not actually be the case. Maybe we will actually see the return of Crash and Eddie, because again, This is coming from the actor. This is not coming from Disney or 20th Century. This is not coming from any of the actual filmmakers working on it, like the director or the writer or the producer or whatever. This is coming from one of the actors. And the thing is, when it comes to actors, sometimes they'll try to sneak away from fully answering those questions so that they could still respect their NDA. And I mean, we've seen this happen again and again, and that's especially the case with Marvel actors. Like, you will see quite often with people like either Benedict Cumberbatch, or especially like with Tom Holland, or you'll see with some of the others, like with Robert Downey Jr. or whatever. Sometimes, like, they'll be in interviews and they're going to be asked like some major questions that will be spoilers in the next MCU movie, and they have to weasel their way around to not answering it, or just straight up lie so that they don't respond and keep the surprise intact. That can possibly happen. So what I'm pretty much saying is that there is a small chance. I'm not saying that it will definitely happen, but there is that small probability that maybe Seann William Scott is either lying and that he's saving the surprise for when we actually do see Ice Age Boiling Point and Crash and Eddie will be there, or maybe later in production, like maybe for now it might be true that Crash and Eddie are not there, but then maybe later on, like maybe while the production is still ongoing in 2026, the filmmakers will decide, okay, we'll have this scene here and it will have Crash and Eddie. So then they will bring in Josh Peck and Seann William Scott to go and be involved. So that's why overall, I'm not immediately celebrating or hyping up the fact that Crash and Eddie are probably dead and won't be coming back for Ice Age Boiling Point, because there is no 100% confirmation. Maybe that could actually be the case. And so far, from the evidence that we have gotten in this article, maybe they won't return. Maybe they're going to go and keep things simple with Ice Age Boiling Point. And if so, then honestly, that's great. You're already heading towards a direction that will make it better than some of the later sequels like Continental Drift and Collision Course. But there is also that likelihood that maybe it's not going to happen, and maybe we will see Crash and Eddie return, rather it be in just a few scenes, or maybe still be the annoying comic reliefs throughout the feature. There is that possibility. Ultimately, we're just gonna have to wait until the movie does come out, or until we learn more information of what's going to be in store in this picture. So honestly, it's gonna be something we will have to wait until at least next year, when there's going to be that new info revealed, when we will hear about who else is going to be in the cast, or maybe we will see like a teaser trailer or something like that come out. Like, ultimately, it's just a matter of being patient to see if that actually is the case or not. So with all that said, I just want to go and fully express my thoughts on the entire matter. And that's why I'm saying that if that is the case, then awesome, then maybe there will be a good purpose or a good reason why we're going to have Ice Age Boiling Point. But I am open to the possibility that maybe that might not be the case, and that we will see Crash and Eddie again. So honestly, that's where I currently am right now. So with that said, now it is time. I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to ask you all, what do you think about the possibility of Crash and Eddie not coming back in Ice Age Boiling Point? Do you believe Seann William Scott that maybe they're full on dead? Or do you think that they might actually make a comeback? Let me know what you all think. And you know what? Let's actually go and do a poll this time, where I'm going to go and write it down to go and ask you all, do you think Crash and Eddie will come back in Ice Age Boiling Ice Age? Okay, I don't have enough characters, so I'll just say Ice Age 6. So I'll say yes, and then I'll say no, and we'll see what the poll says. And now let's go and check out the chat wall. All right, so let's see now. And there was much rejoicing. I'll break out the champagne. You set up the fireworks. The insufferable possum demons are dead. If Disney wanted me to accept the fact that we're getting an Ice Age 6, they're definitely made me turn around on my thinking. If this turns out to be true, the franchise is going to return to the former greatness it hasn't reached since the first movie. And if not, hey, at least we'll get some more funny Scrat moments. That is true, actually. Other than the main 5 that I mentioned, they are going to be bringing back Scrat, as well as Baby Scrat from the Scrat Tales shorts. And I will say, like, to give Ice Age credit, like, it's not just the first movie that turned out to be great and the rest was crap. I mean, there was Dawn of the Dinosaurs that, it's not amazing, but it is still pretty fun. And those Scrat Tail shorts, I really did enjoy them. So just thought I would go and give a little bit of credit to go and give credit to Ice Age on that. And who knows, maybe Boiling Point could be another one that might turn out to become better. Like, if it turns out to be as good as the first, that would be incredible. But at the very least, if Boiling Point can make it to the levels of Dawn of the Dinosaurs, then you know what? I'll definitely be happy and fine with it. All right, let's see now. What other comments do we have? Along with Crash and Eddie from Ice Age and Johnny from Hotel Transylvania, I bet you would also consider Elliot from Open Season to be one of the worst cartoon characters as well. I bring that up because, funny enough, both Elliot's first actor, Ashton Kutcher, and Crash's actor, Seann William Scott, both starred in a comedy together years before they did their respective characters in Dude, Where's My Car? In 2000. Have you ever heard of it? I've definitely heard of the movie, but I haven't seen it yet. All right, let's see. Man, whoever is directing Boiling Point must have really hated The Adventures of Buck Wild. I remember finding Crash and Eddie funny in Dawn of the Dinosaurs and nothing else. But the fact that they might be canonically dead is a little jarring, but also a little funny. But if they are going to go ahead and kill them next, then Julian next? Or the Drake Mammoth? Or you could bring him back, but recast him with Kendrick Lamar for the funny. Oh my god, that is true. Drake did voice a mammoth, actually. Oh boy. I don't know. Like, yeah, Julian is another character that was absolutely cringe. But, the funny thing is with this is that, again, like, the whole death comment, that's just from Seann William Scott. There is no confirmation if they actually are dead or if it's just like the fact that the characters might not appear. So, like, honestly, it's like one step at a time. Like, first of all, we have to figure out, will Crash and Eddie return in Ice Age Boiling Point? And if not, does that mean that they're officially dead? We'll just have to wait and see on that. And by the way, we did get results on the poll here that I made, and apparently most of you are actually saying no, Crash and Eddie will not be coming back in Ice Age Boiling Point, in which 84% of you who have voted have actually said no, they're not coming back, while just a meager 16% believe that yes, they will return. All right, interesting. Let's see what other comments to go and read. I'm personally taking this with a grain of salt, but I am hoping this is true. All I make, Crash and Eddie were somewhat tolerable in the second and third movies, but from there they just got worse and intolerable. And honestly, I think they would be better to do it to get rid of some of the characters from the sequels. Also, one thing I could never understand is how they managed to make Josh Peck unfunny. How do you do that? Yeah, I know. It's pretty weird because, the funny thing is that coincidentally enough, I actually just got back to watching some stuff from Josh Peck. That's mainly just his TikTok videos. And like, even the stuff that he makes nowadays, like, they're actually pretty hilarious. Honestly, the dude still got his comedic chops. But yeah, like, it is wild that you would take a funny actor like Josh Peck and you would make him incredibly cringe with Eddie in the Ice Age movies. But yeah, honestly, like, what you commented right there, that's exactly my feelings, that you know, as much as I would love for that to go and happen, I am taking this with a grain of salt. That's probably the best way to go and summarize my thoughts. Let's see now. That's weird that Disney decided to not cast the actors of Crash and Eddie. Not only that, but also Peaches and her boyfriend if they're actually dead. Matt, I want to say congratulations that your wish is coming true, and I think my theory is if they're not returning in Ice Age 6, that means that the Disney Plus movie was a sequel to the other movies all along, and maybe they're on vacation or something together. I don't know, but let's see what happens. Leave the trailers, at least the trailers are coming out next year. Exactly, like, who knows what might have happened to them, but I think like a good confirmation, if it's not going to be when the movie comes out in early 2027, we'll probably get some kind of confirmation in the trailers or something. All right, I think I'll read 2 more comments at this point. Let's see here. Honestly, I hate to be that person, but honestly, good riddance. I'm like you and not a fan of Crash and Eddie from the Ice Age films. And if that's true, then it will honestly be a relief not to hear their annoying shtick. They remind me of the logging locals from Thomas and Friends, and I hate those characters as much as Crash and Eddie. I'm not really that familiar with the locals from Thomas, but I'll take your word for it. Let's see what other comments are there to read. I will say, it's quite wild to learn that Crash and Eddie might be dead and killed off from Boiling Point. But as you said, considering that we only got the source from the voice of Crash himself, it's best to take it with a grain of salt. I will wait and see if Crash and Eddie will return, and I do have one request. Don't bring back Drake to the 6th film, but Kendrick Lamar instead. Yep, we got another comment on that. Let's see, one more. Okay, yeah, we'll do one more, and then we'll be good to go from there. So I doubt that they'll be permanently dead, but if they do appear, I hope that their appearance is very minimal at best and more focused on the main cast instead. That's something I can give Continental Drift credit for their minimal presence. Crash and Eddie are like the Tibble twins. Yeah, I mean, that could also be another case as well. If they would go and, like, maybe Crash and Eddie would make, like, a little return, like a cameo, but it's just to go and establish, like, hey, we're not going to be here, okay, bye. But even at that, like, with Continental Drift, sometimes, like, they would still appear from time to time. It's not like they only showed up in the very beginning and the very end and that's it. There's still moments in between when they're absolutely cringe, especially with that weird hedgehog guy that has a crush on Peaches. But anyways, rather if they're dead, rather if they're going to be coming back in Ice Age Boiling Point, that remains to be seen. And I guess we will only find out when Ice Age Boiling Point will be in theaters in, I believe now they moved to February 2027. All right, so with that said, we're going to go on to our next break, and when we do return, well, we're going to go into the most shocking entertainment news of the week, and this is one I got to say is worrisome because, well, if you're not a fan of the Disney-Fox merger, then you're not going to like what's to come regardless of what the outcome shall be on this, so stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story, I might as well go and address some good news and some bad news. I think that's the best way to go and get into the story that I'm about to talk about. Now, the good news is actually in regards to Warner Brothers Discovery, and you may recall, I believe I did talk about this before, of the fact that there was a possibility that Paramount Skydance was about to go and possibly acquire Warner Brothers Discovery. But not only did Warner Brothers refuse on the deal, but they actually refused 3 times. So 3 times that Paramount and especially the Ellison family tried to go and acquire Warner Brothers, but all those attempts have failed. So thankfully, that outcome might not occur. That's not 100% guarantee, but so far, their efforts have pretty much failed, and that's pretty much good news for everyone else. So what's the bad news in that? Well, unfortunately, the idea about completely selling Warner Brothers has circled around the heads of the executives there, and they decided, you know what? Why don't we go and do that? Let's put Warner Brothers Discovery up on sale. Yes, the news has broken out that apparently Warner Brothers Discovery is going to go on sale, and that they even mentioned that there are several parties, not just Paramount, are interested in the possible idea of actually acquiring the whole studio. In fact, I'm just going to go and read you the specifics a little bit from my source here on The Hollywood Reporter, as it states here. Amid swirling reports of bidding interest by Paramount Global, the WBD Board of Directors says that it has initiated a review of strategic alternatives to maximize shareholder value. That's the first acknowledgement of a metaphorical for sale sign hanging from the iconic WB water tower. In a press release on Tuesday morning, the Warner Brothers Discovery Board of Directors says that it has received unsolicited interest from multiple parties, and it's listening. Now, you might be wondering at this point, who are these multiple parties? We know that at least one of them is Paramount Skydance, but who else would go and be interested in actually acquiring Warner Brothers? Well, it doesn't necessarily go into details as to who it might be, but there is one part where they did give out a little bit of an idea, to which they actually said, is it this one? Yes, okay. Let me just go and read you right over here, in which it states, earlier this month, Bloomberg reported that new Paramount owner David Ellison made a $20 per share bid for Warner Brothers Discovery, which was dismissed. It is currently unclear who is making these other unsolicited bids, although David Faber at CNBC mentioned on air Tuesday that Comcast and Netflix have made inquiries. The Hollywood Reporter has reached out for comment to both of those companies. Our decision to initiate this review... Oh, by the way, this quote that I'm going to be reading you here will be from the chair of the WBD Board of Directors, Samuel A. DiPiazza Jr., in which he states, our decision to initiate this review underscores the board's commitment to considering all opportunities to determine the best value for our shareholders. We continue to believe that our planned separation to create two distinct leading media companies will create compelling value. That said, we determined taking these actions to broaden our scope in the best interest of shareholders. So, right now, that's currently the position that they stand. And by the way, it is also worth mentioning that it is true that Netflix did speak out about the possible acquisition, and for now they are stating that they're not really that interested, especially with the fact that they're committed to just going on streaming, and they don't know if they want to really acquire a major studio that would also go distribute movies in theaters. Now, rather if they're really that interested or not, right now they're not in the category of they're not going to go and buy it, but they are in the category of maybe not. You know, it's like they're not likely, more so than just a definitive no. But still, the first thing that I want to go and fully address is that you probably have noticed from the quotes that I have read, the reason why they're doing it is strictly for business. You could tell that right now that when it comes to the executives at Warner Brothers Discovery, like David Zaslav and the board of directors, the only people that they truly care about are the shareholders and the financial value of Warner Brothers Discovery. Because those are the only people that they have mentioned and the only people that they have expressed concern and care for. Like, just to go back, like when they mentioned that, they want to go and maximize shareholder value, or even with the quote that I read from the chair of the board of directors, that he said that we determined taking these actions to broaden our scope in the best interest of our shareholders. Like, all they've been talking about is just in regards to the shareholders and the value of Warner Brothers Discovery. Like, that's all they would go and discuss about. Maybe you would have David Zaslav discussing about how, like, the legacy and the whole company in general. Like we would have here, this quote here from David Zaslav, where he would say, "We continue to make important strides to position our business to succeed in today's evolving media landscape by advancing our strategic initiative, returning our studio to industry leadership, and scaling HBO Max globally. We took the bold step of preparing to separate the company into two distinctive leading media companies, Warner Brothers and Discovery Global, because we strongly believe this was the best path forward." So from there, at least he's not bringing up the shareholders, like that's one credit that I could go and give it. But as you could tell, the only thing that they're really caring about is just the money. It's just the business and nothing else. When it comes to what's going to happen to the well-being of their employees, or rather it be when it comes to what's going to happen to the creatives at Warner Brothers, like what's going to happen to the producers, the directors, the writers, the actors, the artists, the animators, the costume designers, the other kinds of designers, the technicians, and all those people, the thousands of people working at Warner Brothers, when it comes to that, obviously they could not care less unless they actually have a share in their position. They don't really care about what's going to happen to them. They only care about the financial value of Warner Brothers, and that's pretty much it. And that is why it is terrifying to see what they are doing right now with Warner Brothers, with the fact that now they are considering the idea of actually putting it up on sale so that another major corporation can go and acquire it, and quite possibly do another episode of what we just saw with the Disney-Fox merger, of taking two major entertainment entities and just combining it into one, into this corporate mutant that could, that could have some grave consequences in the industry. I mean, we've already seen the consequences of what happened with, again, the Disney-Fox merger, and I'm just going to say right now, whoever Warner Brothers is going to merge with, it ain't going to be good news. I can go and tell you that right now. And I'm not just talking about Paramount. Even if they go and get acquired by Comcast and that Warner Brothers would be merged with Universal, that's still going to be bad news. That's still not a positive sign right there. That's still going to amalgamate into another corporate mesh that is going to lead to more layoffs, more synergy, and just more, more of that kind of terrible nonsense right there. And like, not just with Universal, but even if it's another company, like, let's say, like, even if it is Apple or even Amazon or what have you, like, even if it is those, that's still not a great sign right there. It's still going to be another cursed merger that is going to have some grave consequences that unfortunately the employees are going to get the short end of the stick to it. So yeah, it's just all bad news all around. And by the way, it might sound like I'm going on a little bit of a side tangent, but this is something that I just want to go and comment and bring up with the fact that now with Warner Brothers Discovery, their business has gone so bad to the point that now they have to be on sale in order to get acquired by a bigger entity. And honestly, I feel like that really does prove that with fandoms, they have no idea what they're talking about when they would go and discuss about the success or the failure of a movie. Because nowadays on social media, you see these discussions happen all the time, especially when it comes to movies. In fact, fandoms would go and discuss about the performance at the box office or on streaming more so than the actual movie itself. In fact, we've kind of seen that recently where they would go and discuss about Pixar's Elio, where very few people would actually talk about the movie itself because, let's be honest, most of the people ranting about Elio haven't even seen Elio. And what they would do instead is just focus exclusively on its bad box office performance. And they think that that would go and explain everything about Elio and explain everything about Pixar and Disney and what have you. Even using K-pop Demon Hunters in order to weaponize it and use that to go and keep on bashing Elio, as we have seen with many influencers and many social media users would go and use. But what we're seeing right here with how bad things are going with Warner Brothers, that means jack all. And that's especially the case if you go and take a look at the box office, how things are going with the worldwide box office of this year so far. Because when it comes to Warner Brothers, they have been having one of their best years in recently. You know, like, honestly, with Warner Brothers, they have been doing phenomenally well because, like, if you just look among the top 20 highest grossing films of the year so far, they actually got a whole bunch, like more than a quarter of it, or I would even say even like around a third is just Warner Brothers movies. Like they got a Minecraft movie, F1 the movie, Superman, Conjuring, The Last Rites, Sinners, Final Destination Bloodlines, and Weapons. And so far, the year is not over, and I think they might have a few more movies to go and release. But still, though, they have been releasing hit after hit after hit, in which not only are some of them financially successful, but some of them, including Weapons and Sinners, are considered some of the best movies of the year. And they're going to definitely get a popularity rebound once award season comes. And yet, despite the popularity of those features, you would think that because making massive hits, including a Minecraft movie reaching almost $1 billion at the box office, that would help somewhat to go and rebound Warner Brothers' business woes. But no, that's not what actually happened. That's still not enough for Warner Brothers to reconsider if they would go on sale. So at the end of the day, it really shows that it means next to nothing. In fact, let's actually go even further than this. Let's go further with this idea, and let's actually contrast that with Disney. Because with Disney right now, they've been having a pretty mid-year. Like, honestly, it's like a give or take. Like, yes, this year they've had a few successes. You know, they got the Lilo and Stitch remake, which is right now the highest grossing American animated feature of the year so far. Not animated, but the highest grossing American movie of the year so far. And they also did have the Fantastic Four First Steps that did pretty well for itself. But that still doesn't change that they've also gotten some box office bombs. I've already mentioned Elio, but then you also got the Snow White remake and just recently with Tron Ares. And yet, those movies did not do much damage to the business of Disney. It hardly even put a dent to the company. Like, it only represents a very tiny fraction of their overall business. In fact, the biggest blow that they have ever received is none of the box office flops. It's actually with the Jimmy Kimmel controversy and with almost 2 million people unsubscribing from Disney+. That did a significant amount of damage, more so than any of those box office bombs right there. So in that regards, again, this is just to go and highlight that when it comes to all these discussions you see on social media about like, oh, this movie didn't do well at the box office, this movie didn't do well on streaming, what does that mean for the company behind it? It's completely meaningless, especially when you know for a fact that 99.999% of those people talking, they're not business experts. They don't even work within the industry. I mean, I'll confess, I'm not a business person myself. You know, I'm just observing and just expressing my opinion, but I'm not going to go and try to pass off and say like, oh, I know exactly what I'm doing and I'm absolutely right with everything I say. No, like, I'm not going to pretend to go and say that. I'm only expressing my opinions, and you can agree or disagree with me, and maybe I'll get some stuff wrong with what I would say. which is honestly more than what I could say about the people on social media or even certain YouTubers, where they could get more wrong than right, and that their entitlement makes them more bigger than what they actually are. So that's why I just want to go and like throw out that rant where it really does highlight the unnecessary arguments that these things would go and lead up to. Because again, regardless of how good or bad a movie does at the box office, or how consistently from one studio that would go, that doesn't necessarily mean anything about the business of that particular company. Because if Warner Brothers is really messing up so far, even when releasing like some of the biggest movies like Minecraft and F1 and Superman, then it really does highlight that box office numbers don't mean much when it comes to the overall business of these major companies. But one thing, another thing that I want to go and discuss about, and honestly, this is kind of a concerning thing about this whole thing, is that, okay, fine, Warner Brothers is going to be going on sale. And yes, it's bad news no matter what, excuse me, it's going to be bad news no matter who's going to go and actually acquire the company. Maybe it's going to be Comcast and merge it with Universal. Maybe it's going to be Amazon and maybe they'll merge it with MGM. Maybe it'll be someone else, but either way, it's all going to be bad. But it is true that there are some companies that are much worse than others. Like there is a case where it would be even worse news if one company would go and acquire it than compared to another. And I would say the worst case scenario would be if Warner Brothers does get acquired by Paramount. Because keep in mind, yes, even though Warner Brothers has already rejected Paramount's offer 3 times, that doesn't mean that Paramount is going to give up. That doesn't mean that they're out of the table. They will still keep on trying. And if that happens, then yeah, the news is going to be terrible. This is like, it's going to be really bad all around. And this is something I remember I did discuss about, and it's mainly because of the political the political aspect of it. Like, it's going to be much worse than the Disney Fox merger, because yeah, it'll be bad as that, plus you got the Donald Trump aspect of it. And I know this because the Trump administration is actually rooting for the Ellisons and Paramount to go and acquire it. So let me just go and read you this excerpt from this post here, in which it says, a Trump official tells New York Post that the administration favors Paramount Skydance to buy Warner Brothers Discovery, and a number of rival bidders are likely to face stiff hurdles from U.S. regulators in the blockbuster auction. Who owns Warner Brothers Discovery is very important to the administration, a senior Trump administration official told On the Money. The Warner board needs to think very seriously, not just on the price competition, but which player in the suitor pool has been successful getting a deal done. And that points to the Ellisons. And I think it's no secret as to why the Trump administration would want the Ellisons and for Paramount to go and acquire Warner Brothers is because of the fact that the Ellisons, especially with David Ellison and his father, Larry Ellison, has some very strong ties to Donald Trump and his administration. Like, they're the kind of like MAGA Republican billionaires. And it's already bad enough that they got control of Paramount and that already they're turning CBS into a North Korea style propaganda machine for Donald Trump. And if they get their hands on Warner Brothers, that's going to be the same thing. And that's, again, this is just in terms of the political implications. I cannot imagine what else it could go and happen in terms of how this will affect the animation studios, the movie studio aspect of it, and how it's going to affect streaming, and what will happen to the employees. I mean, Skydance has Paramount has already laid off around 2,000 of their employees after the merger was done. So at that point, it's going to be even more catastrophic if it does, if Warner Brothers does end up in the hands of the Ellisons. So that's why I want to put out a big warning. And I know that there's already retaliation against it. Like, we already got the Writers Guild of America, who openly expressed that they are fully against the idea of Warner Brothers being merged with Paramount. And if that occurs, then they will go and take action to fight back against it. Like, the WGA will make sure that merger will not go and occur. So yeah, overall, this just feels absolutely concerning. Yes, there are some scenarios that are worse than others, but this is still very bad news all around. And it's quite unfortunate that Warner Brothers Discovery is at the point where they would have to go and sell, and that these major mergers are still happening. And I mean, considering that we are in the Trump administration, where Republicans are perfectly comfortable with seeing monopolies and mergers occur on a regular basis, these companies are taking advantage of that in order to make sure that keeps on happening again and again, in order for billionaires to keep accumulating their wealth. So this is just something that I want to go and express and discuss about the troublesome aspect of what's going on. Now, what's going to happen in the future with this? I don't know, but it's something I'm not looking forward to. All right, so with that said, now I would like to go and pass this on to the chat wall, and I'd like to go and ask you all, what do you think about Warner Brothers going on sale? And at this point, do you think they will be acquired by another company? And if so, who do you think they'll end up merging with? Let me know what you all think on that. All right, so let's see now. Warner Brothers is like an aging prostitute with an STD. Oh boy, what a comparison right there. It will get in bed with anyone who will have it, and both it and its partner have the rest of their lives ruined from then on. American Express, Time, AOL, AT&T, and Discovery can attest to that. If either Paramount, Comcast, or even Netflix ends up buying Warner Brothers, Disney will lose one of the two biggest studios' rivals, or its biggest streaming rival. No, okay, not the streaming rival. Its biggest streaming rival right now is Netflix. I mean, it's hard to really consider HBO Max like a big rival. Anyways, David Zaslav could very well be Warner Brothers' last CEO. Ugh, yeah, there could be that prospect. Anyways, well, here we go again. I am really not looking forward to this. While I'm somewhat relieved Paramount was rejected 3 times, but this really is the same song and dance Warner Brothers has done for decades, where it put up for sale and someone buys them and it ends up in a disaster, and it's just going to be the same thing. As bad as the Disney-Fox deal was, this could have ended much worse. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, at least with, like, one thing to give credit to the Disney-Fox merger. Yes, it's not good, but compared to like the mergers that Warner Brothers has done, like at least Disney managed to find a way to kind of make it work out for them. In fact, some of the best things that they have done in recent years is related to the 20th century projects. So at least Disney has a better way of like making those mergers work, more so than Warner Brothers has, because they would keep on trying, rather it be like, as one of the comments mentioned, like with American Express or AT&T or Discovery or AOL, they would keep on trying and keep on merging, but nothing works with this. It's just failure after failure after failure. Let's see now. What other comments are there to go and read? There is that. Let's run this through about the possible buyers for Warner Brothers. Paramount got Daddy Ellison money. People want Universal because of theme parks. Warner Brothers' future films will be stuck in streaming if Netflix gets them. Amazon already has MGM, and Apple is also there. I don't want them to get bought out, but if someone would get them, Apple already has a relationship by releasing F1, so I guess it could be a better future than others. Yeah, honestly, like, I feel like if there has to be a best case scenario, maybe it would be Apple. Like, and I'm just saying maybe, because I'll even say, like, as much as people want Universal to be merged, like, honestly, that's not really a good one. In fact, I would even say Comcast doesn't get as much crap as they deserve, because keep in mind that Comcast is probably, or actually, no, it is. It is as bad as people claim Disney is, especially when it keeps teaming up with Trump when they're like, they would help out with making Trump's big, beautiful bill to go and happen. And not to mention that they have fund money to go and destroy part of the White House in order to turn it into like Trump's stupid ballroom or whatever. Not to mention also being guilty of doing some of the things that Disney was claimed to have done that is pro-Israel. So I'm just saying, like, no, like when it comes to Universal, like, sure, it's not as popular to hate on it as Disney, but that doesn't make them the good guys. I'm just saying. All right, I'll go and read one more comment before we move on to the next break here. Let's see now. Wow, just wow. When I thought the news of this merger was over, then I heard this bull again. Granted, I'm glad that the Ellisons can't buy this company no matter how many times they try to buy Warner Brothers. I'm still asking what the hell is going to happen here. Buying Warner Brothers is an absolute curse. It doesn't go well for any of the companies. Plus, we all know the history of layoffs and debt. Warner Brothers is like a walking corpse, only to refuse to admit they are dead. Yeah, so I'm just going to say we might hear about this again in the near future, but I'm not excited for that. All right, so we're going to go on to our next break right now. And when we do return, we will talk about something a little bit more positive than this merger here. In fact, we're actually going to have a smooth transition going from what's happening to Warner Brothers to what's happening to the Looney Tunes. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. Now, when it comes to our next story here, we're going to go and discuss about the Looney Tunes. And while things feel pretty bad for the Looney Tunes, especially with the way that they have been treated by their parent company, Warner Brothers, actually, it looks like, ironically enough, that the Looney Tunes are going to have a better future than Warner Brothers Discovery. And that's mainly because of how other companies are actually treating the franchise. Considering that we do have Ketchup Entertainment, who are helping out to distribute their latest projects, since earlier this year, they did bring us The Day the Earth Blew Up, and next year, they're preparing to go and release Coyote vs. Acme. But then there is another company who managed to get their hands on the classic Looney Tunes cartoons, especially with what recently happened to them on streaming. And it looks like things are about to get a lot better, because that company right now, they are thriving thanks to the Looney Tunes. And what I'm talking about is specifically with Tubi. Yes, this Vulture article has actually revealed that things are now going great with the Looney Tunes on Tubi. In fact, right now, they are actually among some of the most watched programs on the platform. So let me just go and read you specifically like this part right over here from my source on Vulture, in which it states here, the free ad-supported streamer was already hosting some recent Looney Tunes content, but in August, it secured 789 old-school shorts, classics like The Great Piggy Bank Robbery and The Long-Haired Hare, all the way up to the shorts from the early 90s. 2 months later, the streamer says the tunes are a hit. And I'm just going to go and read you here this quote from Samuel Horowitz, who is Tubi's head of acquisition, states, on its own, Looney Tunes is a huge win for us. By total viewing time, Looney Tunes is in Tubi's top 10 best performing series. The company says popular reviewers across generations. So it doesn't matter if they're like old or young or what have you. The Looney Tunes are already among the most watched things to check out on Tubi. And one big secret to the Looney Tunes' success on the platform is the way that Tubi actually structured it. Because the big catch with the Looney Tunes there is that not only can you go and check it out either individually, like if you want to go and find a specific cartoon, like if you want to check out either Duck Amuck, or you want to check out One Froggy Evening, or you want to check out What's Opera Doc, you could go and select it right there. But there is another way that you could go and check out the Looney Tunes on the platform. And this is actually a very clever trick where they decided to go and take a handful of those cartoons, and they would go and stitch them together to create 30-minute episodes. So let me just go and read you specifically, where is it? Yes, this part right over here, to which it states, Tubi chose the idea, hold on, let me just rephrase that because I was just tripping on my own words. Tubi chose the ideal delivery format for cartoon comedy, the 30-minute episode. You can cherry pick your favorite shorts, of course, but watching episodes with a mix of characters and scenarios allows for surprises and makes them easier to throw on casually. The seasons, strictly a label as these were all originally released theatrically, are organized in mostly reverse chronological order, apart from some stray entries that Redditors had to put back in order. Chronological wonkiness aside, the viewing experience harkens back to old school linear TV and is a lot more digestible than the paid catalog of HBO Max and Disney Plus deployed, which sometimes committed the grave sin of autoplaying the next short before the current one has ended. And where the other services might interrupt their programming with commercials, the Looney Tunes ads count down unobstructively and play in between each entry, preserving each punchline accordingly. On a classic like Rabbit Fire, you won't have to worry about an annoying ad interrupting Daffy getting repeatedly shot in the face. So that's a major thing. And by the way, this is not even counting some of the other ways that the Looney Tunes cartoons are being distributed. This is not even counting the Warner Archives continuously releasing new DVDs and Blu-rays of those classic Looney Tunes cartoons, and they still are to this day, with not just with the Collector's Choice, but also with the new Collector's Vault. And this doesn't even count also with MeTV Tunes, where they would go and distribute the classic Looney Tunes cartoons, along with many other classic cartoons and nostalgic TV shows out there through traditional television. So in that regards, with Tubi, you got plenty of options of how you could go and check it out. But at the end of the day, they all managed to work out. And honestly, I gotta give Tubi credit. I gotta give Tubi credit that the way that they handled the Looney Tunes, I find it to be absolute genius, because not only do you have the choice of either checking out the individual cartoons if there's one specific one that you want to go and check out, and then there's also the choice of watching the 30-minute episodes. But the concept of the 30-minute episodes is fantastic because there's also that additional nostalgia element to it. There's also that additional factor that people can go and re-experience the Looney Tunes like how they used to in their childhood. Because I can guarantee you, like myself included, and maybe you as well, the way that we experience the Looney Tunes is through syndicated television. Back when they were putting on stuff like The Bugs Bunny Show, or The Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner Hour, or especially in my case, The Bugs Bunny and Tweety Show. They would go and put it up in that format. And that, you know, it's kind of like a bit of a throwback to how you would go and watch it, where you would have one specific block where you would just check out a random batch of cartoons that they would go and deliver. And you never know if you're going to get either like a Bugs Bunny cartoon, or you're going to get a Sylvester and Tweety cartoon, or you're going to get one with Yosemite Sam, or you're going to get one with Elmer Fudd or Marvin the Martian or Daffy Duck or what have you. Like, it's always a surprise no matter which episode would go and come out and would deliver like a random batch of these kinds of cartoons. And Tubi making that kind of throwback is absolutely fantastic. But also, another thing that makes it perfect with the fact that the Looney Tunes are on Tubi is the fact that Tubi is a free platform. And from there, anybody can go and check it out. Yes, there is the cost that you have to go and watch it with ads on, that you will have some commercials that will go and occur, but still, that is a rather small price to pay when you can go and actually have a free streaming platform like Tubi, that it's available for anyone to go and check out. And anybody, especially, can have access to the Looney Tunes cartoons. And this is honestly the true magic and the maybe this is the correct term, the longevity of the Looney Tunes. This is why that for many generations, the Looney Tunes cartoons still stand strong. And they're one of the very few things on this earth that younger generations can go and re-experience it, and they'll enjoy it the same way that older people can go and check out. I can guarantee you right now, there are some Gen Alpha kids out there who are watching the Looney Tunes on Tubi, and they are enjoying it and experiencing it the same way that millennials, Gen Xers, Gen Zs, and boomers would go and enjoy the Looney Tunes. Like, there is that universal connection that we can all enjoy with those specific classic cartoons there. And honestly, I believe this article would even go and mention, especially with the fact that the title of it is literally "Make All Classic Cartoons Free." Like, this really does put a stamp on how the Looney Tunes can go and really make a connection with audiences. This is why, like, it's stuff like this, why the Looney Tunes are going to last forever, because of how easily accessible that it is, because of the fact that they're on platforms that people can go and check out for free, and that, you know, they could just put it on, entertain the kids, and the kids will carry that enjoyment for the rest of their lives. They will have those fond memories of watching those classic Looney Tunes cartoons and remembering characters like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, Tweety, Sylvester, and all those characters. Like, it's a genius it's a genius way to establish that connection with audiences. And even though, like, yeah, you're not going to go and make money out of it, but it's still to go and have that. I wouldn't want to go and say brand loyalty, because that sounds kind of cringe, but to have that established connection to go and happen. And honestly, I feel like we need more classic cartoons to go and do the same. That honestly, companies need to go and sacrifice the prospects of possibly trying to make a profit out of these cartoons. Like, maybe they can do so like with physical media releases, but mainly to go and have people watch those classic cartoons, they would have to go and try to put them out for free. And I don't just mean like releasing it on MeTV Tunes, but also to go and like put it on something like Tubi, or put it on YouTube, or put it somewhere where it's easily accessible for people to go and check out. And I'm just going to say also, if there is one company who especially needs to take note on what the Looney Tunes are doing, and that they need to go and do the same thing with their cartoons, it's Disney. Now, I know it sounds random where I'm suddenly going to go on a Disney tangent when this is about the Looney Tunes, but I honestly feel like Disney should seriously be doing the same thing as the Looney Tunes right now, where they need to stop gatekeeping their classic cartoons, whether it be the Mickey Mouse ones or the Silly Symphonies or what have you, and make them a lot more easily accessible for people to go and check out. And maybe not just the classic cartoons, but even some of the later ones as well, like with the Mickey Mouse works, or I'd even say even with the recent Paul Rudd stuff. They need to go and have that be more easily accessible for people to go and check out. And yes, that would mean to go and check out for free. And not to mention even doing like those 30-minute intervals of like getting a batch of random cartoons and stitch them together so that people can go and watch for either like 30 minutes or an hour. And you could put it up either on TV, like just be a special part on the Disney Channel, or maybe put it on something like Freeform, or maybe you could go and put it up on a free streaming service like Tubi, or maybe even put it up online, like put it up on YouTube or something like that. But either way, the thing is that with the Looney Tunes, people already have that great establishment and recognize characters like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, and all the others as classic cartoon characters. But when it comes to Disney's characters, like with Mickey, Goofy, and Donald, they're not really that recognized as classic cartoon characters. Like, kids nowadays would have a hard time to name even one classic cartoon from either Mickey, Goofy, and Donald. And that's especially the case with Mickey Mouse, who is more recognized just as a corporate mascot. And probably at best nowadays, people will just recognize Goofy and Donald as Sora's buddies in the Kingdom Hearts games. And that's pretty much it. But with the cartoons, they can be recognized as much more than that. Because another thing why I would like to see Disney do this is mainly because these classic cartoons are honestly great. Sure, maybe they're not as wacky and as bombastic as either the Looney Tunes or as Tex Avery, but Disney still has loads of legendary cartoons that they have made that has revolutionized both cartoons and comedy as well. Stuff like, not just like Steamboat Willie, but then you also got the band concert, you got Lonesome Ghost, the Clock Tower, Mickey's Trailer, and that's just and the Orphans Benefits also, and that's just the Mickey Mouse ones. Like this doesn't even count like the cartoons from like Pluto or Donald Duck or Goofy. Like, especially the Goofy cartoons, some of them are absolutely hilarious. Have you guys seen How to Play Football? My God, that was hilarious. That thing is fantastic, and I couldn't recommend it enough to go and check it out. But yeah, the point that I am making here is that Disney especially needs to make these cartoons a lot more accessible than just gatekeeping them either just on Disney Plus or just randomly having them on TV only at the Disney parks. They need to go and make them more easily accessible. If you want kids nowadays to have that established connection of who Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy is outside of just the theme parks, you need to make these classic cartoons more accessible. You need to have them more out there and more publicly available. Like, yeah, sure, maybe you could go and make some, maybe you could go and like do some special like physical media release, do like a Blu-ray version of what you did decades prior with the Walt Disney Treasures, but actually have them out and more publicly accessible so that anyone could go and see. Like, sacrifice the idea of making a profit out of them and try to have the idea of making an established connection with characters like Mickey Mouse and with the audience, like we are seeing here with the Looney Tunes. And honestly, and it's not just with Disney. I would like to see more cartoons go and do the same thing, like with Tom and Jerry, or with Droopy, for example, or like even with the Terrytoons stuff, like with Mighty Mouse or with Heckle and Jekyll. I would like to see a lot more of them try to do the same thing, where the classic cartoons, they could just go and put them out for free, where anyone could go and check it out and actually recognize these characters more as characters than just like some corporate icon, especially with Mickey Mouse. If you want to fight back the concept that Mickey is just a corporate mascot for Disney, then you need to go and show it to you need to go and show these classic cartoons more to new generations. So yeah, honestly, overall, it's great to see with going back to the main subject. It's great to see with what's been going on with the Looney Tunes and the fact that they are seeing great success on Tubi. And the reason why I went on that tangent is mainly because I would love to see more companies do the same thing. That there would be more companies who are willing to go and sacrifice the profit of their classic cartoons and just put it up on a free streaming service like Tubi so that anyone could go and see. And that especially is the case with Disney. All right, so now with that said, I would like to pass this on to the chat wall. And I want to ask you all, what do you think about how Tubi is finding great success with the Looney Tunes? And would you like to see more classic cartoons be presented in the same way as the Looney Tunes? Let me know what you all think on that. All right, so let's see. I just got back from the dentist and I'm very numb. Ooh, sorry to hear that, dude. So anyways, yeah, I have been using Tubi because of the Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry for a while now. It's an absolute godsend for me. I'm sharing this to my younger cousins and they are having a blast watching it. We will keep the legacy alive as much as we can by watching these classic cartoons for free and not only for Tubi. Oh, and I would say the same thing about Hanna-Barbera. Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, like you got Tubi has a system going on. Like if they can be, honestly, that would be amazing. If Tubi can be the ultimate streaming platform to go and check out classic cartoons for free, then I would be on board for it. Like imagine this. Like you would have a free legal version of Kiss cartoons. Like that would be phenomenal. That would be a win for everyone out there. Like that would be amazing. And you would have none of the trouble of getting any weird possible viruses to go in your computer. Let's see now. I'll be honest, I don't really use Tubi myself, but this is definitely a big win for the Looney Tunes. The fact that you're able to have easy access to classic Looney Tunes shorts is great, and especially to help people get introduced to these classic cartoons, and this really goes to show how other companies are treating the Looney Tunes than Warner Brothers has ever done, not to mention the hype and anticipation for Coyote vs. Acme next year after Warner Brothers tried to erase the movie. Absolutely, dude. Let's see. The Looney Tunes being a massive draw for Tubi shows that they are the only people who don't like the Looney Tunes. That the only people who don't like the Looney Tunes is the self-destructing corporate entity that owns them. Like, it's kind of hilarious to see. HBO Max could have become a streaming giant just by having the entire Looney Tunes catalog on it, but Warner Brothers just licensed the shorts to Tubi because a tune drop a piano on David Zaslav brothers' head or something. Yeah, and that's like what I said at the beginning. It's kind of like ironic, but also funny to see how the fate of Warner Brothers is much worse than the fate of the Looney Tunes. And the Looney Tunes are going to go on to have a better future than the parent company that owns them. Let's see what else we got here. What other comments that I did not read? Okay, I'll go here. It's such a breath of fresh air of putting the Looney Tunes on Tubi and making it much more accessible to people to watch it without the need of paying so much money. I'm very glad that in recent years, streaming is becoming so much more expensive, especially with too many of them. I'm so happy that we got stuff like Tubi that can help fill the void for those who can't afford Disney Plus and HBO Max. I'm so happy that Looney Tunes is getting so much love and respect than how Warner Brothers treated it. Exactly. This is why this is more of a happy story to go and analyze. Let's see. We don't have much other. Okay, we got a couple more comments to go and read. I am glad that the Looney Tunes have found success on Tubi, since other companies are handling Looney Tunes very well, and unlike the David Zaslav run company, I hope classic cartoons from other companies could come to Tubi so that everyone can watch it for free. All right. Let's see. We'll have one more comment here. I gotta say, this is great for the Looney Tunes having a moment of the spotlight, even if it's something like I never heard of, like Tubi. I recently tried it not long ago, actually, and I started to see why people love using it. It's like Netflix, but for free. Even if it comes with ads, and it's still awesome for a platform to have certain programs, and not to mention, this is great for certainty of overpaying so many services. Exactly, man. The factor that it's for free, that is going to be a massive draw for many. And that's why the Looney Tunes are really going to benefit in the long run. It's the fact that they're presenting the classics for free and pretty much showing, like, it's basically showing the Looney Tunes at their prime, at their best, for free. And that's how their legacy is going to live on for quite some time. All right, so with that said, we got one more story we're going to go and cover. So after this break, we will go and discuss about the sequel to a very beloved movie that came out earlier this decade. But do we really need this sequel? Well, we will find out after this. And now, everyone, it is time that we will go and cap this episode off with the grand finale. And for this grand finale, we are going to be talking about something that honestly we haven't seen yet, but we know it's going to be quite a thing in the future, and that is sequels to animated movies that are exclusively on Netflix. Now, when it comes to that, so far, what we have gotten just from Netflix, so far it's been all original stuff. Maybe we would be getting things from other popular IPs like SpongeBob, but we haven't really had a true sequel to a Netflix exclusive animated movie. But we know that they're going to be coming up in the future. Like, we know that pretty soon we are going to be getting a sequel to The Sea Beast, considering that was a major hit a few years ago, and now they're going to do a follow-up to that. And recently they are talking about having K-pop Demon Hunters become a trilogy. But then there is this movie in particular, one that back in 2021 really dazzled and really had audiences laughing. Like, there was a time when some people would say that this was the best animated movie that you could find exclusively on Netflix. Well, considering that with this family, they had a lot of fun the first time around, well, maybe an encore would be due for this. And what I'm talking about is The Mitchells versus the Machines. Yes, Netflix and Sony Pictures Animation has revealed that they are going to be developing a sequel to their 2021 animated feature, The Mitchells versus the Machines, in which the most that they stated is that it will be beginning production at the start of 2026, or as it says here on my source on Variety, that production is expected to begin in early 2026. And on top of that, they even mention that Netflix is actually going to be a lot more involved in the production of The Mitchells versus the Machines 2. So not just Sony Pictures that they're going to be keeping an eye on it, but now Netflix are also going to be doing the same. Now, when it comes to the other details of what is in store with The Mitchells vs. the Machines 2, honestly, we don't know. There is no confirmation as to what the story is going to be. We don't even have a confirmation on who is going to be coming back in terms of the cast, although there's probably a good chance that they will be coming back here, or at least the people who have played the Mitchells. Also, even though they stated that production begins in early 2026, we don't know if we have an official release date. But if I could guess, if they are going to be beginning in 2026, I'm not expecting this to come out until maybe 2028 or maybe even 2029, but we will have to wait and see. But we did get a confirmation, however, on who is going to be involved in terms of the crew. And one thing I will state right now is that, unfortunately, the Gravity Falls veterans, Mike Rianda and Jeff Rowe, will not be coming back to direct or write the script. The only one that will be returning in terms of that will just be Mike Rianda, in which he will be an executive producer, and maybe he'll also be coming back as the voice of Aaron, Katie's little brother. I think his name is Aaron. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But we do have an idea of who shall be... Okay, yeah, so it is Aaron. But anyways, back to what I was saying, we do have an idea of who shall be directing and writing instead. To which it says here on my source on Variety that the new directors are going to be Guillermo Martinez, who was the head of story for the first Mitchells vs. the Machines, and J.P. Sands, who recently was a co-director for The Bad Guys 2. And as for the writers, we actually got the Molyneux sisters, specifically Wendy Molyneux and Lizzie Molyneux Loughlin, who are going to be writing the script, or writing the screenplays specifically. We also got a confirmation as to who are the producers. So they do have Phil Lord and Chris Miller coming back to go and produce this, as well as Kurt Albrecht, who will be producing for Sony Pictures Animation. On top of that, we also got Aditya Sood of Lord and Miller Productions, who is also going to be involved as a executive producer. And that's pretty much all that we know about the Mitchells versus the Machines 2. Now, before I go further in terms of my thoughts on the feature here, or in terms of the announcement, I just want to go and give you my quick thoughts on the first Mitchells vs. the Machines movie. And I will say that I personally really enjoyed that film. Now, maybe I'm not like some other people out there who would go and give it high praise and consider it one of the best animated features of the decade. I personally wouldn't go that far, but I still think it is a very enjoyable and solid feature in itself. I would even go as far and say that The Mitchells vs. the Machines is not only one of Sony Animation's better movies, but I would say it's the studio's funniest movie yet. No joke, it was actually a strong contender for my list of the top 10 funniest animated features. It just did not make it, but it was pretty close. If it's not in the top 10, I think it's like in the at the very least, like it is in the top 20, or maybe even in the top 15. So overall, I gotta say that I very much enjoy The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and yeah, I would say I am definitely a fan. But with that said, though, when it comes to the announcement of The Mitchells vs. the Machines 2, I don't know how to feel about that. It's just that I don't know if it's something that I would really want with The Mitchells vs. the Machines. I don't know, like, if I would really want a sequel to that particular feature. And it's not because I didn't like it enough where I want to have more of The Mitchells vs. the Machines. It's just the factor of thinking about the original movie and how it doesn't really leave much room to have a continuation. I personally feel like when it comes to The Mitchells vs. the Machines, it really is crafted to be its own thing. Like, it really is meant to be just this one movie and doesn't necessarily have any intentions to go even further than that, to like really grow as like a straight up franchise. Because I'm going to be going into spoilers here, by the way, but you think about the conclusion of the Mitchells vs. the Machines movie, and whatever loose ends it has, it's all pretty much tied up. Like, when it comes to the PAL bots, they're pretty much all destroyed, and AI has been fully gotten rid of, or I was kind of stumbling on my own words here. I don't know if that's the best way to say it, but like AI was pretty much destroyed at the end of the film, including all the PAL bots and stuff like that. Then you got Katie Mitchell, who finally made it to her college, and that her relationship with her family is like, it's all good, and they all love each other at the end. And at that point, it's just, I can't really see how you could go and make another crazy movie after having that entire conclusion. And I mean, like, when you do look at the other movies who do get sequels, like, rather it be they're gonna get a sequel or did get a sequel, you know, like if you think about Moana or K-pop Demon Hunters, they got a world building aspect and they have concepts in which they can have some leeway where they can open up to see where else can they go after the events of the first movie. Like, yeah, the main conflict is resolved, but there are other possibilities within the feature where you could see that they can explore more into it and they can have other ideas of how they could go and incorporate. And again, that is especially because of their concepts and their world building that they would go and have. With the Mitchells versus the Machines, however, there's not really much that they would have of that. It's like, what else can you do? Like, would you do like another crazy road trip? Would you have like another robot apocalypse that would go and occur? Now, I know that at this point, many people have commented to me that they would have an idea of what they could do. And one of the most obvious ones that they stated is that, well, considering the current status of AI, you can make a further commentary about how AI is dominating our world, especially with stuff like ChatGPT or with Sora, or like with the current, with the current way that people would go and regularly use AI. The Mitchells versus the Machines 2 can go and make a commentary on that. Which, okay, that is an idea. There is a possibility, but the big catch with that is that the first Mitchells versus the Machines film is a massive allegory against AI. It's a big commentary about how AI is a problematic aspect in our lives, and that, to be disconnected is more important than to actually be connected. So there is that factor, there is that factor to go and consider. And like, even when watching the Mitchells versus the Machines to this day, it already feels like the message that it would go and comment against AI, it still rings true to this day. I feel like if they're going to do another commentary on AI, it would kind of feel like it would just be repeating itself in a sense. And this is not even to mention that the future of AI is still pretty questionable, because everybody's been talking about how we're getting closer and closer to the AI bubble to go and eventually burst, and that it's going to go in the way of NFTs, where they're just going to become completely unprofitable and completely irrelevant. And again, considering that with the Mitchells versus the Machines 2, it's going to start production in 2026. So there is that likelihood that if they are going to do more of a commentary on AI, there is a possibility that maybe at that time it gets released, like in 2028 or something, that the commentary is just going to be obsolete, and that what they are presenting with AI is going to be already dated. It's going to be like the Emoji Movie problem all over again. So that's honestly the big thing that's holding me back from being excited to see another Mitchells versus the Machines movie. It's hard to really imagine what they can go and do with the sequel without it ultimately just repeating itself with the first feature, or the fact that it's just hard to find a creative reason why do we need to go and bring back the Mitchells. But with that said, though, even though I have my doubts, I'm not doing this to go and ultimately say, I have doubts on this and I think this is going to suck. I'm not trying to go and push a pessimistic narrative about the Mitchells versus the Machines 2. The thing is that I'm only guessing here, and we're still very early in this production. In fact, the production has yet to even start as I am recording this. I know that there is that likelihood that I could be proven wrong, and that maybe the people at Sony Animation, they could find an idea of how they could turn things around, and that they actually do have a great idea with the Mitchells versus the Machines 2. Maybe they can find a way to go and make a sequel that can be even more extravagant than the first. Maybe they got something going on that I have yet to go and think about. And that is what I'm personally hoping for. Like, I know I'm sounding cynical, but I want to be proven wrong. I want to go and enjoy the Mitchells versus the Machines 2. What I'm ultimately trying to say is that, yes, I have my doubts with the Mitchells versus the Machines 2, but I want to be proven wrong. I want my doubts to be proven wrong so that this movie can turn out to be awesome or even more awesome than the first movie, and that I could personally have a great time with it. That's what I want to go and say. I am definitely open to the idea that maybe there is something that the guys at Sony, or the people at Sony, they may know what they're going to do with this more so than I would. And honestly, if that's the case, then I'll be happy and optimistic to see what they have in store with it. But I will say for now, it's just, I don't know how to feel about this. It's just, for me, I feel like I'm unsure of how you could go and continue with another Mitchells vs. the Machines movie. I don't know like what they can do in terms of the story, in terms of the concept, in terms of the commentary and stuff like that. Will it turn out to be good? Maybe. There definitely is that chance. But it's just for now, it's just, I don't know, man. I just don't know. All right, so with that said, now it is time. I would like to pass this on to the chat wall. And I'd like to ask you all, what do you think of the idea of a Mitchells vs. the Machines 2? Are you guys on board with the idea? Are you excited for this? Can you think of an idea of what they might do for the sequel? Or are you guys a little more hesitant and you're more doubtful if we even need a sequel to the Mitchells vs. the Machines? In fact, let me go and actually do a poll on this one. I think this is a good time to go and do one. So I'm going to go and ask you all, do you think the Mitchells need a sequel? So I'm going to go and write down yes, and then I'll write down no, and let's see what you all have to say about this. Okay, so honestly, Matt, I'm cautiously optimistic for the sequel. I love the Mitchells vs. the Machines. It's not only one of Sony Animation's best films in recent years, but also, if Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse marked the beginning of Sony Animation's new creative era, then the Mitchells vs. the Machines pretty much solidified it. Yeah, it did end in a very satisfying way and doesn't really need a sequel, but they have plenty of one-off movies that got sequel anyways. It's nothing new. Yes, I know, but the problem is that many of those movies that got those one-off sequels, they end up sucking. I mean, with the exception of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Sony Animation doesn't have a good track record when it comes to sequels, and they would come out worse and sometimes worse and worse and worse. Like, do I have to bring up like with Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 or any of the Hotel Transylvania sequels or any of those godforsaken open season sequels? Do I need to bring those up? That's what I'm hoping. Like, at the very least, I'm just hoping that the Mitchells vs. the Machines 2 doesn't end up like those sequels. Like, honestly, those other Sony Animation sequels, that's a case of just because you could, that doesn't mean you should. Let's see now. Considering that Katie is an artist, a filmmaker, I can imagine she would be concerned about generative AI. The thing about AI commentary in the first movie and Megan 2.0 is talking about AI doing labor rather than AI taking away artists and creative work. I can imagine Katie having friends getting frustrated that AI took their art. Like Katie having her McQueen arc and seeing the changes are being depressed and wondering if there's a future for her. She's seeing AI trailers and art. Okay, you know what? You do bring up an interesting idea because, yeah, it is true that Katie went to college for filmmaking specifically, and Katie prides herself in being an artist and a filmmaker. So maybe it could be a commentary specifically on how AI is affecting artists and filmmakers out there. But then again, like, I don't know if the studio would be fully on board, like, to go and have that niche commentary. It feels like very specific, like, especially to go and make a full-on movie. Like, I would imagine, like, in my opinion, I feel like Sony Animation would go and or Netflix and Sony Animation in this case, they would want to go and have a commentary that would be more broad, that would, you know, like that would explain AI in a much bigger picture than how it affects artists and filmmakers. I mean, what you're suggesting is pretty good, But I feel like with the companies out there, they want to aim a little higher than that. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, we already got results on the poll here. And oh, wow. Okay. I never thought I would see people unanimously disagree with me on it. But literally 100%, all of you who have voted said, yes, The Mitchells vs. the Machines need a sequel. Well, holy crap, there's just no doubt about that. Wow, okay. It's very rare that I would go and do a poll and then suddenly you would see like unanimous voting, like 100%, everybody voting on one side. Let's see, what else do we have here now? Let's see. As someone who did enjoy The Mitchells vs. the Machines, this news was very interesting to me. Yes, on the surface, it does feel unnecessary, but then again, I read an article about this on The Wrap that goes into more details about this, including the title, the synopsis, about the family facing themselves. Either way, I am curious to see what they come up with. Really? Okay, so apparently there is this Wrap article. Unfortunately, it is one of those that you have to go and pay for. So I don't know. Yeah, so I don't think I could go and officially see what they would go and say here. So I can't read it immediately. But all right, if we do have more details on what's going on, then we'll see how it goes. Anyways, what other comments do we have to go and read here? Okay, let's see. One of the best things about the announcement is that the Mitchells vs. the Machines sequel is that the new directors are Latino filmmakers. That's a big W for me since I'm Latino myself. For the sequel itself, I think it has potential to be as good as the first. Hopefully the artist will be treated well, looking at you, Lord and Miller, but I'm honestly looking forward for Frozen 3 a little bit more. Jennifer Lee told me a little bit about it the last time I talked to her, so yeah, life as usual. Just showing off your connections and your networking skills, dude. Oh boy, I'm a little bit jealous myself, like especially as an introvert. I kind of wish I could have those skills of like just going up to those admirable filmmakers and go, hey, what's up? How's the next project going? You know, it's just, man, I wish I could have those skills. It would be very useful for acting, especially. Anyways, where was I? Okay, right over here. Let's see. The Mitchells vs. the Machines was one of my favorite animated films from Sony Animation, and I'm personally excited for the sequel. Honestly, I can see how they can explain how they can expand on the allegory of AI and how it is nowadays can also further develop the characters, so I'm excited. Although I'm a little disappointed that it feels like Sony is once again neglecting Sony Animation and just making this a Netflix exclusive again. Well, I don't think this really is Sony Animation's fault or Sony's fault in this case. This is more of a factor that it's Netflix who would go and demand this more, considering that, well, unfortunately, since we are at the point where Sony would keep selling their movies to Netflix and they turn out way better on the platform than they would in theaters, then yeah, like it feels like nowadays Netflix has a little bit more control of Sony Animation, especially with stuff like The Mitchells vs. the Machines and, well, that new ball and chain that Sony Animation has that we call K-pop Demon Hunters. All right, I think I'm going to go read one more comment and then we're going to cap this off from there. So let's see what else we got here. Oh boy, we're getting the Mitchells vs. the Machines sequel and not another Hotel Transylvania sequel. I wonder what will happen next for the main protagonists. Maybe they will go and stop the new AI company and the evil president who are taking over the world with new AI technology. I am more excited for the K-pop Demon Hunter sequel, and I am hoping for Genndy Tartakovsky's next film, The Black Knight. Ah, yes, The Black Knight. It's kind of funny to see the development of what Genndy Tartakovsky is doing and just literally leaking new stuff from The Black Knight, just showing off what they're doing and basically risking his job at Sony Pictures Animation. But then again, considering what they've been trying to do, considering the way that Sony Animation has been treating Genndy Tartakovsky, let's be real. What does he have to lose at that point? So if like leaking everything that he has done for the Black Knight would actually move the momentum of actually making that thing happen, then you know what? So be it. All right, and with that said, that should do it for this episode of AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast. Hey, thank you all so much for joining me on this. Man, it has been a blast of an episode. And also, I just want to go and remind you again that on Thursday, October 30th, starting at 8 p.m. Eastern, I will be doing the charity stream where I will be playing Cuphead: The Delicious Last Course for Gamers Outreach. And also, if you guys enjoyed your time here on AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, don't forget to go and subscribe to the AniMat's Crazy Cartoon Cast YouTube channel and the AniMat Live Twitch channel. And at the same time, if you guys have been listening to me on any other podcast service, rather it be on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, and more, don't forget to go and follow me there. And with all that said, I want to say thank you all so much for listening. Thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, see you later, dudes.